Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. I hope you all are doing well. I wanted to sit down today and talk a little bit about this season as a whole, you know, how it's been so far, how we think it may go, and more specifically why I think that we're going to have to be patient with Frank Lampard's Everton this season, because things aren't always going to be rosy, things aren't always going to be brilliant, things aren't always going to be exciting and happy and, you know, winning every week and undefeated for 6-7 games on the bounce with the best defensive record. It's not always going to be like that. And I think we all had a little bit of a sort of reality check after Sunday's defeat to Manchester United. And it was a bit of a realisation as to where we actually are at a football club. And that is a club in a much, much better position than what we were in this time last season and certainly towards the end of last season. A club that has strengthened massively in the summer in terms of recruitment and the players in which we've brought in the positions in which we've strengthened. However, a club that still aren't quite of that quality of a team like Manchester United, and a club that have got players that will make mistakes, that will make bad passes, that will make mistakes that will lead to goals, and that will lose games of football this season that we as fans are disappointed to lose. But that's why we have to remain patient with what Frank Lampard is doing at the football club at the moment. I sat here when we done the review to the Manchester United game, pardon me, on Tuesday night. It was the first time in a while that I'd sat down and spoken about an Everton defeat, and this includes the Aston Villa defeat earlier on in the season, maybe not so much the Chelsea defeat, but it was the first time in a while that I'd sat down after a defeat and I could really sort of differentiate my emotion and separate my emotion from understanding that it was a woeful performance, and that, you know, we weren't very good and we should have been better and the individual mistakes were poor and, you know, were avoidable and it was disappointing, but also being able to, you know, take a step backwards and almost look at it with context to the situation and understand that it was just a bad day at the office. It was just a bad game of football, and we're going to get those, you know, games various times this season. That is going to happen, and that is really, really interesting to me because, as I said, it's the first time in a while that I've been able to do that. The Aston Villa game, there was a lot of emotion in you know, how I was feeling because we'd lost to a team that, quite frankly, I didn't think we should have lost to. The Chelsea game, you know, ultimately we'd lost, but we were very good, and, you know, on another day we'd have got something out of that game, and it was, you know, again, there wasn't too much anger upon that. And then obviously, you know, most of the defeats last season were met with a lot of anger and upset and frustration, and rightly so. So this was the first one, as I said, in a long time where I was able to sort of sit back and analyse and appreciate and understand of how bad of a performance that was, especially, you know, the opening 45 minutes, which was arguably the worst 45 minutes Everton have put in for a long, long, long time. You know, disregarding the Arsenal game at the end of last season, because let's be honest, it didn't really count. But also being able to, as I said, appreciate that this is a process, and that this process is absolutely nowhere near finished, and this process is very much only at the beginning. And when you look at how far Everton have come since Frank Lampard has taken over as manager, and where we've been during Frank Lampard's time as Everton manager, from, you know, a managerial boost and, you know, a bit of confidence and momentum to, you know, beating Leeds and Brentford in the FA Cup and Leeds in the Premier League, and then, you know, maybe sort of getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves, thinking it was going to be rosy, and, you know, it was only January, so we'd go and, you know, we'd be fine, and we'd survive without a problem, to then obviously the defeats to, you know, Burnley and Newcastle and teams like that, when we all sort of sat in and thought, oh my God, is this it? You know, is it over? Are we going to be relegated? You know, Brentford towards the back end of last season, there was still a lot of nerves there, to the wins against Leicester and you know, Chelsea and Manchester United, and then ultimately Crystal Palace at the end of the season. We've been through, you know, a roller coaster ride under Frank Lampard already, and there was absolutely no stability. There was absolutely no sort of consistency. There was none of that at any point last season, even when Frank took over, because Frank couldn't implement that because he didn't have his own players, he didn't have his own, way of playing. It was very much just get in and do whatever you can to keep this club in the Premier League. And even the January transfer signings were very much just bring players in to be able to, guarantee that we stay up. And, although, looking at it now, it might have seemed like the most successful transfer window, bringing in Vitaly Mykolenko, who's our number one left back, who's been brilliant this season for me. Nathan Patterson, who obviously we've had some positive news about today. Frank Lampard saying that he hopes Nathan Patterson will be back within 2 to 3 weeks. He's been on the pitch training at Finch Farm today, so the hope is he'll be back over the next couple of weeks, which is magnificent. And, even though Dele Alli didn't ultimately work out, we brought him in and, he had his best game and an only real good game against Crystal Palace in the game that we needed him to. So, it was very inconsistent. It was very up and down. It was very much a roller coaster of the last few months of last season, which ended on a massive high. We then went into this season. We've had an absolutely fabulous transfer window. We've brought in some really, really talented players, some consistent players. We've brought in leaders. We've brought in players that, ultimately have improved this team tenfold, whether it be in the defence, whether it be in the midfield. It's easy for us to have looked at the opening sort of couple of months of the season, and given we'd just gone 7 games unbeaten, and given we'd just won 2 on the bounce, and we'd won away from home after going 1-0 down, which is completely unheard of. It's very easy to get carried away. It's very easy to, forget everything that happened last season because none of us want to remember it and get carried away with how well we'd been doing this season. But the reality of the situation is that, I don't want to say that those last sort of couple of months were a false dawn, because I don't think they were, because even the defeat on Sunday was a defeat to a team that have got a ridiculous amount of quality in there. And as Frank Lampard said today in his press conference, we only lost to 2 individual mistakes that were our own doing, and had we have not, statistically and factually, had we have not made those individual mistakes, we'd have won the game. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't have created another chance in the final 15 minutes, or they wouldn't have scored another goal, but factually, the only 2 goals Manchester United scored were through individual, mistakes from Everton players, and had they have not happened, then it would have ended 1-0 on the sort of balance of how it went. So, again, it was almost like a sort of a reality check to where we are at the moment, and I think it's important to understand that there will be games this season that we lose. There will be games this season that we're beaten by a better team, by a team that have, got more quality in their side, by a team that, are managed by a world-class manager, by a team that are in really good form, by a team that have got a bit of momentum. And those games might be decided by an individual mistake, or by a mistake by Frank Lampard, or by a player not having a particularly great game. However, we need to remain patient with what is happening at the football club at the moment, because I am extremely confident. And if you've been around the channel for a long, long time, I've been doing this channel over 4 years now. If you've been around for, even a couple of years, you will know that I've not said this about Everton Football Club very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever said it about Everton Football Club. Maybe, at the beginning of Carlo Ancelotti's first full season in charge. But other than that, I've never really felt the way I feel now, and the way I feel now is that this is the start of something very good for Everton Football Club. Now, I know you might say, well, Cam, that's just because we've been in a bit of a decent run of form. We've made a couple of smart signings, and you've got the blue tinted glasses on about how how we've started the season. But the reality is, it's not necessarily specifically the performances, it's not necessarily specifically the players, it's not necessarily specifically the manager, it's not necessarily specifically the results. It's the feeling I've got about the football club at the moment. And I don't know whether anybody else shares this. I know that there's thousands of Blues that share this, because I speak with, Evertonians constantly, and I'm on social media with Evertonians constantly. I don't know whether anybody watching the live comments feels this way as well, but I can't help but feel like there is a really, really positive feeling about what is happening at the football club at the moment. What Frank Lampard and ultimately Kevin Thelwell are building a team of resilient players that will fight, that will work hard, that will demand better of each other, that will battle, that will, be, have each other's back. And it's little things. It's not just coming back from Southampton and winning 2-1. It's not just beating West Ham, at Goodison. It's not just putting in a battling performance against Liverpool in the derby. It's, Anthony Gordon squaring up with a Leeds player at Ellen Road, and James Tarkowski, Alex Iwobi and Conor Cody being right over there straight in the face. It's Alex Iwobi celebrating his wonder goal against Manchester United, and Conor Cody going over and showing his leadership to try and calm everyone down. It's Conor Cody walking out of the tunnel when he hasn't got the armband on, yet still being a leader, still, riling the players up and getting in the players' ears to make sure they give everything. It's Amadou Onana putting a tackle in and then getting the crowd lifted up. It's a Adesanya Gay showing how happy he is to be back at the football club with his celebrations with fans at the end of games. It's Neil Maupay, Amadou Onana and Dwight McNeil sitting down doing a talk with Everton last night, and a select bunch of lucky Evertonians that managed to go down and watch that live. Them all sitting there talking about the club in such a positive manner. Neil Maupay basically coming out and saying it was an absolute no-brainer. Now, I know, we all know, listen, we all know that Everton, and this isn't, I mean absolutely no disrespect, by the way, when I say this, but we all know that Everton are in a completely different stratosphere to Brighton and Hove Albion in terms of the size of the football club. It's factual. I don't think anybody could disagree. I don't even think a Brighton fan could disagree. But there certainly is an argument to be had that Brighton are or were in a better position than what Everton were. Now, it's a bit different now because they've lost Dan Ashworth, who was an absolutely fantastic football operator, and their director of football, he lost him to Newcastle, and obviously they've just lost Graham Potter as well, so things are a bit different. But certainly before Neil Maupay joined Everton, there was an argument that although Everton would always and will always be the bigger club, Brighton were at the time the better ranked club and the club that were looking more, like having a positive future than Everton were. And yet Neil Maupay still come out and was like, it was an absolute no-brainer. What are Brighton to Everton? As soon as Everton come in, I was there. You've got Dwight McNeil, who was saying to James Tarkowski put a word in for me. James Tarkowski, who had conversations with Dwight McNeil talking about how good Everton was, how everybody was brilliant at the football club, how the manager's great, and how the way things are being ran was really well, and how the director of football is really good. You've got Amadou Onana coming out and saying it was an easy decision because I go with my heart, and my heart tells me where to go, and my heart told me Everton, and look at the relationship he's got with us Evertonians. So the point I'm trying to make, you might be sitting there thinking, Cam, you're rambling absolute nonsense, mate. The point I'm trying to make is that there will be difficult times this season. We will have troubles. We will lose games of football. We'll lose games of football to teams like Man United when we give them a couple of chances. And you know what? We'll probably lose games of football this season where we get absolutely the floor wiped of us. But we have to remain patient. We simply have to remain patient. Frank Lampard has said today in his press conference he's learned an awful lot about himself as a football manager since being in Everton Football Club. We all know the impact Kevin Thelwell's had on Everton at the moment. It's very, very, very early days, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself because, I was guilty of doing that with Marcel Brands. I was guilty of doing that with Steve Walsh. But the profile of players Kevin Thelwell has brought to Everton Football Club is exactly what we need. I remember listening to a football coach not so long ago. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to get them in trouble. He was a head coach of a team in one of the lower divisions, and he done a talk, and I remember watching a video on it, and he speaks about signing players, and when you're signing players, not necessarily just looking for the quality. So it's not about looking for just the fact that they're an amazing footballer and then that's it, the decision's done. It's about having and I think he said, a no-knobhead policy. And that effectively means it's about bringing in, good quality footballers to improve your team and the right players for the right positions and what you want to do. But it's also about making sure that those players are good people. Those players are players that will work hard, that will battle, that will give everything for the football club. Those players that are going to come in and not disrupt the dressing room. Those are players that are going to come in and have got a good work ethic, a good personality, a good lads to be around. And I think that is exactly what we've done this summer. Not only have we brought in quality, not only have we brought in, players that fit the way Frank Lampard wants to play and players that ultimately improve Everton, but we've brought in personalities. Neil Maupay is a personality. Not only is he an experienced Premier League forward who can score goals, but he is a personality. If you haven't watched that talk, by the way, it's live on Everton's YouTube channel now. And, you know, as I said, I know there was a number of Blues that were lucky enough to go and actually witness it live last night, but it's live on Everton's YouTube channel now. And Neil Maupay's asked a number of questions, and he's very, very, very honest. It's a very, very, very good representation of who Neil Maupay is as a person, his personality. You know, as I said, the Brighton question, he's effectively like, yeah, you know, it's Brighton. Let's be honest, Everton come in for me, I'm going to Everton. He was asked one about Abdoulaye Doucouré, which he could have shit out. He was asked a direct question by Darren Griffiths, is, you know, with you being French, you know, Abdoulaye Doucouré being French, was Abdoulaye Doucouré a help when you come into Everton? And he could have turned around and gone, yeah, Dukes was a help, he helped me settle in and this, that and the other, and we know each other from the international team. He didn't. He turned around and went, no, not really. And everybody sort of just stopped, and he went, not that it's anything bad towards Dukes. Dukes is great, and I'm very, very close with Dukes, and I have been since the you know, the younger teams in France, you know, the under 21s French teams and stuff. It wasn't that, it was just that I didn't really need anybody to help me settle in, because I know most people at the football club anyway. So Dukes was great and he was there, but it wasn't specifically Dukes. You know, he was asked about even little things like who plays the songs on you know what, in the changing room before the game, and Neil Maupay comes out and goes, I don't know, but I don't like it. Gives me an headache. Sometimes I'm happy to get out and say him, because it's just head banging, you know, constant house music, and it gives me an headache. And Onana's sitting there like going, yeah, I'm the same. I just put my headphones in because I don't like the music. And as I said, we've brought in lads that you can tell are generally happy to be here, want to be here, want to play for this football club, and want to work for this football club as well as leaders in Conor Cody and James Tarkowski, who are, as Alex Iwobi and a lot of other players of the club will say, the dads of the club. They've only been here 10 minutes, and they're already being labelled as the dads of the football club. You know, Garner, who is incredible for somebody like Onana to learn from. He speaks very fondly of Garner Gay in that talk Amadou Onana yesterday. Again, little things. They had a session where they showed Maupay's first goal and he spoke about that. They showed McNeil's first goal and he spoke about that. And then Onana says, you haven't got a clip of my goal, have you? And then just bursts out laughing. It's little things like that. And you might think, well, Cam, it's complete and utter, you know, it's nonsense. It's tiff for tat that you're talking about. It doesn't mean anything, but it does. It means something that these players have got personalities. They're able to have a laugh and a joke, but they're also able to get their head down and work hard when they need to. Amadou Onana is able to rile the crowd up during a game of footy, but he's also able to go and put in a 8, 9, 10 out of 10 performance. You know, putting tackles in, winning balls, you know, getting involved in the game. So, again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the live comments, and if I'm the only one that feels like this, but I can guarantee you I'm not the only one that feels like this. There is a good feeling around Everton Football Club at the moment. A very, 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 very good feeling around Everton Football Club at the moment. And we have to be patient as Evertonians, because, as I said, there will be defeats this season that we're disappointed with. There will be performances this season that we sit here when we're doing the instant match reaction or when we're doing the player ratings and we say, oh, that was fucking awful, that we were absolutely shocking there today, or this player was awful, or that player was awful, or that decision by Lampard was awful. But there will also be games this season where we are beyond proud of these players, where we are beyond proud of this manager, where we are beyond proud to support this football club. And we've had that in a week. You know, this time a week ago, I was still on cloud 9 after travelling all the way up to Southampton to watch an Everton team show grit, desire, fight, resilience, battle, quality, you know, all of the above, to come from behind within the space of 2 minutes and go 2-1 up and win a game of football away from home. And then seeing all the players come over and celebrate with the fans and seeing how much it means to them. And now we're sitting here after a really poor defeat, and it's the complete, you know, other side of the coin. But I don't feel half as disappointed or as upset or as emotionally drained after Sunday's defeat as what I would have done had we have lost to Manchester United last season, or as I did do for a lot of the losses last season, because there's an overall good feeling about this football club, and this isn't an overnight thing. This isn't going to change overnight. Frank Lampard was never going to come in and go bang and everything would be brilliant. Kevin Thelwell was never going to have his first summer transfer window and go bang and everything is instantly great. The reality is we lost to a team with an 85 million quid player who scored, and one of the greatest footballers of all time who scored on Sunday. Now, I'm not going into this game on Saturday with a defeatist mentality. By the way, the game preview to Everton's Premier League fixture against Spurs will be live tomorrow, so don't forget to join us Friday. As always, it's always on a Friday, round about 4:30, 5 o'clock. We'll be sitting down, we'll be doing the preview, we'll be giving my predicted starting 11s, all of that. I will be travelling down to Spurs on Saturday, so you best believe there will be a picture of me drinking a bottle of rosé wine at 8:30 in the morning or something like that on Saturday morning, so look out for that one. But that preview will be up tomorrow. But I'm not going into this game with a defeatist mentality in any sense of the imagination, because I think we can get something out of this game. I really, really, really do. But Spurs are a team with a lot of quality, with, again, a £60 million lad they've just signed in the summer. Not really sure who they signed him from, but he looks a decent player. They've got another lad in Son who's world class, Harry Kane who's world class. They've got a midfield, they've got a world class manager. So I'm not saying we'll probably lose, or we should be thinking we'll lose. But what I'm saying is, again, if we do lose, it's not the end of the world. None of us should be sat in that stadium if we lose this game on Saturday thinking, oh my God, we're going to go down, or it's awful, or this, that and the other. Again, we've got to be patient. We've got to understand that this is the process, that we will lose games this season. We will put in bad performances, but we will also win games, and we'll put in good performance, and we will be nowhere near that relegation zone if we stay patient with Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard has got something that no Everton manager has had since... You know what? It's easy to sit here and say Roberto Martinez, but I remember Roberto Martinez's first season really well. And look, I was a kid. I was 14, 15 years old at the time, however old I was. And I don't remember it being as amazing or feeling as amazing as what the league table at the end of it would have suggested. Look, it was an unbelievable season. It was our best season in however many years. We finished 5th. Any other normal season, the points tally we got would have been in the Champions League, maybe even challenging for the title in any other normal season. It was great, but there were times during that season where we were awful. The football was awful. We were really, really poor. We were struggling. We had a really good run of however many games it was unbeaten towards the end of the season, which helped us massively. But even in that season, I don't specifically remember feeling unbelievable, other than towards the end of it when we were winning every week and it felt great. It wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't an unbelievable feeling for all of it. Carlo's first season, yes, again, okay, you could say that was an example of it, but we were all stuck in our houses watching it on telly in an empty stadium. So even though it felt great and we were unbeaten in 7 and we won the first 6-7 games of the season or whatever, it was a weird time because we couldn't go the game. We couldn't really build that relationship with the manager or the players because of that. And Everton probably benefited from that, to be fair, at the time. I haven't felt the way I've felt about Frank Lampard or this Everton team, about an Everton team for a long time. Probably David Moyes' sides in, the mid-2000s. And that is a credit to Frank Lampard, and that is a credit to these players. That's a credit to people like Alex Iwobi, who have managed to turn their Everton careers around absolutely stupendously. And what we need to do now, for me as fans, is remain patient with this process, remain patient with this manager, remain patient with these players, and get behind it all, and understand that when we lose games, we lose games, and we just... we move on. We pick ourselves up. We move on. But I've just got a really, really, really good feeling about Everton under Frank Lampard and Kevin Thelwell. Look, football is a fickle sport. Football is a very, very fickle sport, and this conversation could be a completely different conversation in 6 months' time. But at the moment, I think a lot of us will feel this way. We, as I said, we need to get behind it. We need to be patient with it. We need to get behind it, and we need to continue doing what we're doing, and that's turning up and being the best fans in the country every single week, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm absolutely sure that we will do that. Jack the Lad says FA Cup final, yeah, again, late 2000s under David Moyes. David B says, will they play Son, Kane and Richard at the same time? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. They might play Kulusevski in there I don't know. The Blues says, think McNeil long term will become a centre mid and a free like a Wobie with his work rate and his pure lack of pace out wide makes me think it's inevitable. Maybe. Paul says McNeil will surprise us all. I think I agree. You're right in a way as he was washed, but given the context, wasn't much of a mistake. Says the Blues. Don't know who that's referring to. Toothy says, I hope Lampard can learn and grow from the new hires made by Thelwell, like that Welsh FA fella who's head of academy coaching. I can see Thelwell building something. Spot on. Philip says, as far as I'm concerned, we're on the cusp of success. We have an amazing state-of-the-art stadium on the way. We have a young manager, there's no doubt. We're on the move up. The stadium is a big point as well. You know, we've got a young manager who loves the football club, who's really, really, really bought into what it means to be a manager of Everton Football Club. Not come in and gone, well, I'm Frank Lampard, Champions League. You know, every time Frank Lampard is asked in a press conference about him as a player or what he won as a player or where he went and Champions League winner, Premier League winner, he almost just shrugs it off and is like, it doesn't matter, none of that counts because I'm manager of Everton Football Club. He hasn't come in and gone, well, I'm Frank Lampard, I'm bigger than this club because I've won this or I've won that or I've been here. He's come in and gone, forget about me. What do I need to do to really, really, really engrave myself in this football club and the DNA of this football club? And he's done that brilliantly, and that's how he's managed to build that rapport and that relationship with us fans, and that's why there's such a feel-good feeling around the club at the moment. Spot on, Cam. The club has started to turn corners, says Stephen. Or says Cody is the dog's bollocks. Blessing to us. Him, bro. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. I wanted to just do, as I said, a little live stream, just basically giving my thoughts and opinions on why I think we need to be patient with Frank Lampard at the moment and with Everton, because we will have bad days, we will have bad games like we did on Sunday, but there is something good is building here, and we have to just continue to get behind it. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. As I said, we will be back tomorrow with the game preview to the Spurs game, so don't forget to join us for that one. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. We'll get involved with as many of them as we can. And as I said, if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. Massive thank you all for watching. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. I really do appreciate it, and we'll see you later.